There you go.
Hi, I'm Miriam Granger. Roxanne brought me in to work with him on some basic like relaxation and bending. Because this horse, since he was trained to drive and he was with a Mennonite family, and drove a carriage like 10 miles a day. This horse, he wants to work kind of inverted and backwards. And so, not only is it something that his conformation is going to kind of encourage, but it also is his training too. So we are effectively untraining that and retraining this horse how to relax, because as you can see, like, he's been doing it for a while. Because if you look at his neck, he's got tons and tons of muscular development right here, like nothing up here. And if I took the saddle off, you would see he's got like no muscle right through there. So what we want to start working on today is introducing how to relax through his top line and how not to just like use these muscles to crank his head in all the time. And so, normally we would want, in proper dressage, we would want head position to be a result of the body doing everything else correctly. But sometimes, especially with a horse that's been trained to throw their head up in the air, and it's, again, not just training, it's also his conformation and breed. We might have to start with his head a little bit and be like, hey buddy, this is the direction we want you to go. And then when we actually are able to get him doing it, then we can work him through his body to achieve that. So we're gonna do just some basic exercises at the walk. Nothing crazy. He's a little tender because he's barefoot for the first time in probably his life. So we're just gonna start out at the walk. That's good.
We are
I know
filming.
you viewers can't see it, but Roxanne is wearing a GoPro on a cheap little Troxel helmet she has, and I'm gonna have her put a picture of it in the video so y'all can see what I'm looking at. This
You're
whole
really,
time.
really going to insist that I do that?
Oh, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna keep things at the walk with him. I don't want to demand a whole lot right now because we're considering him a green horse because we're retraining him. So just at the walk, I'm not going to nitpick him. I'm not going to try to position his body a whole lot. I'm just going to kind of get a feel of him at first, because the only time I've ridden him was when we were picking him up and he was strung out and stressed. And so I'm just going to forget that, because those were, that was kind of not really him. He was stressed, I'm going to give him a chance to start over. So just at the walk, I just want to keep him moving. He wants to look, that's fine. I don't, as long as he's not like running out of the arena. But while we're walking, with a horse like him, since as soon as he feels pressure in his mouth, he's going to want to shoot his head up. It's going to be really important to have following hands. So here at the walk, even if I have to over-exaggerate it a little bit, you see how I'm letting my hands go with his stride? So that as he bobs his head, he's not hitting my hands. Some horses will be pretty tolerant of you, keeping your hands here and letting them, them hitting your hand with their mouth. But I'm guessing he's not one who's going to be, because, like I said, he's been trained to shoot his head up anytime he feels pressure. So he is a little bit hard in his face. That's understandable. He was worked entirely off of his face before this, because that's how card horses are. That's how driving horses, some driving horses are. So I'm just going to get a feel for his walk right now. He actually has a pretty decent walk. Like, it's not, he's kind of uncertain right now. It's not a super even tempo. But again, I'm not going to nitpick at that because one, he's barefoot and a little tender. And two, he doesn't really fully understand what the expectations are yet. So we want to be fair to him and not pick on him too much. I actually like where he's kind of carrying himself right now. Like, he's a lot lower headed than the first time I rode him. The first time I sat on him when we were trying him out, I could have like leaned forward 3 inches and kissed him on the pole. Right now, he's kind of stretched out, which is probably a result of Roxanne's relaxation ground work. It's amazing what you can accomplish on the ground that transfers into the saddle. So he's probably going to get a little tight through his back and neck when I start asking things of him. But for now, I'm very happy with this. We want him to associate this type of posture or something close to it with riding. Maybe if I picked on him a little, maybe he could stretch a little more. Maybe he could be a little more forward, sure. But again, this is new, so we're not fixing there. He got a little tight. The wind started blowing. You can probably hear it on the microphone.
That's okay. You know, if he comes up, just encourage him back down. And the way that I'm doing that is by, you know, not getting tight on his face, because that's going to have exactly the wrong, or it's going to achieve the wrong result. He's just going to shoot up higher. I'm pushing forward. Boy. He's pooping, so just for the viewers. So what a good boy. This horse is nice. He does have a lot of try, and we want to, you know, it's very easy as humans to get really locked into the whole, like, oh, I set out to achieve this particular goal today. And sometimes, you know, the horses don't understand that. So it's really important, especially with horses like him, that we reward the try. Not necessarily like, oh, you didn't get exactly 100% what I wanted, but, you know, if he made efforts to do it. So now, Roxy, I'm going to turn it in towards you. So now, I'm going to just bend him to the inside. Just with my hands, a little bit of leg. Just a little bit of inside leg. There! That was exactly what I wanted. You know, I'm going to be honest. I kind of was anticipating, and this is not something we should do, I was anticipating it being a bigger struggle than this. Again, because this horse wants to be really tight through his top line and throw his head up. But that was really nice. And again, probably a product of all the ground. Because that, it truly does transfer into the saddle. All right, I'm going to turn him in that way. All right, so I'm going to open this rein, ride him around. He wants to be a little harder on this side. That's fine. Good.
If you guys remember the last video, he was also tighter for me when we were doing our groundwork work to his right. So this is consistent with this horse.
Fine. Now I'm just going to keep him bending around my leg, although, you know, like at this point, I can't fuss with his body position too much because he doesn't know what the expectations are. He's a little stiffer on this side, he's a little harder on this side. That's normal. Almost every single horse out there is asymmetrical in some way. Usually horses have a stronger braced side and a weaker hollow side. And what that means is if he's stronger on the right side, he's going to be less flexible. But if he's weaker on the left side, then that's where he's going to tend to like drop his shoulder, drop himself to the inside. So I'm going to ask him to keep going forward. We want to do this going forward. We never want to take forward and away from the horse. Especially at this point in the breed. Forward is very important. All right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to open this rein. Yeah. And I'm keeping wide hands right now because the more advanced a horse is, the more of like, you could visualize it as like keeping them on a balance beam. He's not super advanced. He's pretty green to this. So I'm doing the equivalent of giving him like a sheet of plywood to walk on instead of a 2x4. Good. He's kind of wanted there, right there, he wanted to suck back a little bit behind my leg. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to ask him to keep going forward. That's good. I really like that he's not shooting his head up when I asked him to do that. But if he did, if he were to shoot his head up as soon as I asked him forward, good, like that, I would just take him and bend him. And keep that forward energy. But when you're doing this, you don't want to just like lock them into a circle. There. Did you see how he dropped his head like a 1/4 inch? That's, you know, at this point, that's good. We are okay with that. I'm going to do it again. He's probably going to shoot his head up. Yeah, there we go. He's very bracy on the bit. That's okay. This will help with that. It's not something that's going to get fixed overnight. With stuff like this, you cannot take it personally. It's very easy to. Trust me, I have personal experience with this in a certain barrel horse of mine. But if you do exercises like this, and the more comfortable they get with this, the more responsive they're going to be. Now, he might be a horse that might never be like completely light in the face, and that's okay. But we need to be fair to him the whole way through. I'm going to turn him again. Good boy. I'm not going to let him stall out because he understands now what's supposed to happen. Good. See? Did you see how he threw his head up there? He's like, oh, forward means I have to follow. Good.
So he's not totally relaxed through his top line, but he's getting there. All right, we're gonna go the other way because I don't want to drill one way or the other. So you have to be, this is kind of a balancing act when you're doing stuff like this. Because it's very easy to frustrate a horse by either doing it too much one direction or by switching it too often. I know a certain redheaded mare of mine, she does not like it if I switch back and forth rapidly. And then she's like, what do you want from me? But at the same time, you know, if you keep drilling the same thing over and over and over again, I mean, a horse like him, he's basically got the psychology of like a toddler. And so, I mean, what happens when you force a toddler into drilling the same thing over and over again? They get bored really quickly and frustrated really easily. And we don't want to get them to the point where they're frustrated. Because if we do, that's a whole, I'm sure Roxanne's been over at least something like this in her videos. You know, that's a whole other can of worms we have to deal with. And we're here to accomplish something else. So, I'm going to fix him again. And right now, it's okay if his nose isn't turning around and touching his barrel. Just like being able to see his eye. Just see, like seeing the eyelashes and his eye. Ooh, that was nice. So I don't know if you could see it on camera, but not only did he kind of give to me right in here, but for like half a step there, he picked up his shoulder and just kind of moved it off my leg. And so, you know, this is also a good exercise for teaching him kind of what that leg means, because I don't think leg means a whole lot to him other than go. And if we use situations like this where he's already naturally going to want to, you know, lift his body and drift out there, then, you know, we can teach the cues to him without making it a stressful experience. He'll associate, oh, that leg means pick up my shoulder and move over. So, as I was talking there for a second, when I praised him, what had just happened was that, you know, I'd given him his head, but there, he's quick. He picks things up pretty quickly. So what he did was he felt my leg against him, and he kind of picked his shoulder up as much as he can right now, and moved it over. It's a tiny, tiny little amount. Very, very little. At this point, I don't need him crossing over. I don't need him taking these huge reaching steps. I just need to try. I just need to try, and he is trying. He's very good about giving us some try. My stirrups are definitely too long right now. I'm having to reach for them a little bit, but you know what? It is what it is. So I'm going to turn him in towards you again, Roxy. I'm going to ask him to give. Yeah. There. He's kind of getting tight. See that? He's getting a little tight. What might have happened is I might have missed my window to release. There. So as soon as I get that window back again, I'm going to release.
And Miriam knows this as much as I do, and I've said this in other videos. It's not about doing better than what you did before. It's about doing better than what was happening 3 seconds ago.
Good boy. All right, once again, his head to the inside. I'm not digging into him with my inside leg. I'm just kind of resting it on him. Not expecting a whole lot right now, because he's very much about like hand cues right now. He doesn't really know what leg means. Good boy. But I don't want to let him stall out like that. Good. And I'm going to let him go straight. Because there for a second, even though he kind of like dove in his head a little bit, he did start to relax here. And you can't really see it from the camera, but from where I'm standing, he started to give me some bend right in here. Good boy. He wants to be buddies with Roxy. He wants to wear the GoPro helmet. Yeah, see, when I push him forward, get his head up, that's okay. I'm not going to let him yank the reins out of my hands. If he throws his head around, then I keep my hands steady. And if he runs into my hands, so be it. I'm not going to yank him, but if he hits the bit himself, that's on him. So, because if I throw the reins away every time he does that, then he's going to learn, oh, I can just take the reins away from her anytime. And his owner has very soft hands. And so you do not want him doing that. You don't want him taking the reins away from him. He's distracted now, that's okay. I'm gonna tip his nose to the inside. Let him bend. I don't care what patterns we're making right now. I don't care what the tracks in the dirt look like at the moment. So he is a lot bracier on this side. You see how he's very resistant. He's only giving like right at his jaw. Like he's tipping his jaw instead of his nose or his eye and relaxing his neck. It's okay, I can open up the rein a little bit, describe it to him a little bit better, be more clear. Good, good. A little bit more, we're almost there. You want to relax and be there. Fortunately, it happened while we were turned away, so. And every time I touch his face, I want it to mean something. Because like I said, this horse is very, very braced in his mouth. And that's not something that we need to fix. This is a common misconception, I think. This is not something you want to fix with bigger, heavier, harsher bits. Because then, eventually, if you keep doing the same thing but with a bigger, heavier, harsher bit, you're either going to cut up their mouth or they're just going to learn how to lean on it and, become even more numb in the face. So this is all about pressure release. He learns that, he can train me. He's learning that he can get a response from me if he does a particular thing. Good boy. You want to keep him going forward, which again means he's going to get tight in his back for a second. That's okay. Good boy. Good boy. I'm going to bend to the inside. Open up that rein. And the way my hands and arms are now, this is not how I would ride a more finished horse. Typically you want to ride with proper elbows at your side, still hands that are relatively close to each other. But for this horse, we're taking a bit of a different approach. That's okay. He wants to throw his head up. It's all right. Just bend into the inside. Bend into the inside. He's very tight on this side. Good boy. Even just getting a quarter inch down. Even just seeing just the tiniest bit of flexion through his neck, especially in this area. That tends to be very inflexible. I'm going to give him that. All right. And another thing sometimes I'll do too with a horse that wants to lean on my hands is, you kind of play with his mouth. Not yanking, not saw. We don't saw. We don't yank, anything like that, because that does not help the problem at all. Or if it does, it's in a very artificial way that doesn't really transfer well into training later on. But I will kind of talk to him, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go. Because he can't lean on me if I'm doing that. If I just hold it, then yeah, he can lean on me all day long. But squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go. Good boy. He's leaning on me. Squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go. He wants to go flirt with Splash.
He loves Splash.
He can't go flirt with Splash. So again, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go, squeeze, let go. I'm not really doing anything with my outside hand right now. Eventually we do want him working into the outside rein, so we need to teach him what reins mean first. We're gonna get away from this wall right here because we seem to be trapped on it. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. All right, I'm gonna bend to the inside, squeeze like that, squeeze like that, squeeze like that, squeeze, squeeze. There, you're bracing on me. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release. There, there. I'm gonna let him have that. And once again, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. Good.
he lost it. I also don't want him to get in the habit of just yanking back his head back up. I don't know what that was. Yanking his head back up as soon as he does the right thing. So now that he kind of understands the game, I can have some more expectations. Again, we want to keep our expectations reasonable. We want to manage our expectations, but you know, I don't want him popping up every single time we get done with it. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. You may want to stand outside of our circle. Good boy. Good boy. Again. Good boy. See, as soon as he did the right thing, he anticipated me kind of letting him go a little bit, and so then he braced again. So I had to go right back to it, and that's okay. We're not going to get super hard. We're not going to get super impatient about it. Good. Good. You have to come to this side. He just wants to turn towards the ladies. See there? He tried to bounce the reins out of my hands. I'm going to go right back to bending him. If we end up having to sit here for a second, that's fine. That's what it takes to get him to not race against me. That's okay. I can sit here for a second. We'll figure it out. We can spin in a little circle. Good. I'm going to go the other way. We spent a long time on that side. This is his easier side. So every once in a while, if you find yourself getting stuck, it's okay to go to the easier side and kind of use that as the opportunity to like detox kids in your brain. If you let yourself get frustrated, that is a surefire way to get the horse frustrated, Nancy.
So that's the same theme we were talking about in the round pen. If he cannot get that answer, and we've been trying over and over again on one side, we back up and try and find some way to make him a winner before we go back and practice again. We need him to know that we're still listening, even if he's struggling with one concept.
And sometimes when you do that, if you find yourself getting stuck, whether the horse is stuck, whether you're stuck, whether everybody's stuck, you know, that's a frustrating place to be. If you just kind of leave it, do something else for a second, and then come back to it, I've found more often than not, you'll have a much easier time reapproaching. He's wanting to drag me to the girls right there, and that's not okay. You know, because you want to have reasonable expectations of him, but we also need to set boundaries. Dragging me towards the other horses is out of boundaries. He is in the arena, so he's working. He can make friends later. He has 23 hours a day to be friends with them in the pack. There! That was better. And see, did you see how he popped back out again? There! So I just put him right back to it. And that time, he's kind of fluttering out. That time, he did it a lot better. He was a lot better about coming back to it. You might want to stand outside of our circle to stop over that if it's too close. So again, he's wanting to lean on me. That's fine. I'll just hang out here until there. He's wanting to flirt with the ladies. Now, you can't drag me to Roxy either. Once again, I'm going to try again on the heavier side, more braced side. Ask. And again, I'm not yanking him in the face. I'm not sawing the bit. I'm not, getting rough with him or anything because, he's clearly, like, I personally think that this horse has probably had somebody be rough in his mouth before. And that's what made him the way he is. He's numb to it now. So I have to take a different tack. So that's why I'm doing the squeeze release, kind of talking to him. There. Now as we come around to where the ladies are, that's going to be the real challenge, the real test of this. There. And he passed the test. So having distractions, I'm going to let him walk out for a second. Having distractions like this when you're riding, as much of a pain as it might feel like, it's a good test of honesty. You don't want to eliminate, I personally don't want to eliminate all distractions from the arena or from my riding space when I am riding, because, as nice as it would be to be riding them in a sterile environment, most of these horses, there he's leaning on me, so I'm going to squeeze, release. Even here when we're kind of relaxing, and if he yanks his head up like that, I'll just go right back to it. Anyway, as much as we'd like to ride in kind of a sterile environment with no distractions, life isn't like that. And so it's good to be able to deal with distractions or things that are slightly worrying. It's good training opportunities for you and for the horse. Boy, we're going to walk on. We did a lot of bending. Now I want to see what happens when I encourage him to walk out a little more. There his head went up, that's okay. Now I can either go right back to bending, but he dropped his head again. So, even though his instinct is still to shoot his head up, now he's kind of thinking, I can relax that down. That's good. So this is kind of what we want. As much as I'd love for him to stay down, even as I ask him up, or ask him to stretch out a little more. The fact that he comes back down to that is progress for this horse. So I don't want to pick on him too much, because then I'll just end up creating more tension. And tension is exactly what we're trying to relieve right now. We've got flies, so they're a bit distracting. There. So there I asked him for a little more reach, and he gave it to me without shooting his head up. What a good boy. Yeah, with this horse, you want to do the same thing with babies too, but with horses that have already been trained one way, that we're basically having to retrain them or untrain them, I only want to pick on like one thing at a time. Because again, you don't want to frustrate them. Because if you put them in a position where they can't give you the right answer, then they're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. It's going to snowball. It's going to go downhill. Everybody's going to end up mad. You're going to end up doing more. It's so easy to do damage. It's all it takes is 20 minutes to backslide 2 weeks worth of work. So managing expectations is very important when it comes to horses like this. So this is good. So once again, I'm going to ask to just see what happens when I ask him to give me a little more forward, because he's kind of pokey, which is okay. Again, we don't want to pick on him, but I'm going to ask him a little more forward. Good. So he thought about going up, but then he dropped his head. This is exactly what we want. We want him thinking towards relaxation. Because this horse wants to be tense. This horse, kind of learns to be tense. But, the fact that he kind of is now reverting back to being relaxed, even just here at the walk, it'll probably look different once we trot. We'll probably have to do this all over again at the trot. That's okay. The fact that this horse wants to relax, most horses do, that's good. That's very good. He's made progress. So once again, I'm going to be distracted by the ladies. I'm going to ask him forward. And then he pops up. That's okay. That's okay. I'll just ride him through it. There. And so the way I handled that, since I'm not bending him at the moment, was I just kind of let him come into my hands a little bit. He's not allowed to take reins from me. But I let him come into my hands a little bit, and I just kept pushing him. I was like, look, kind of, I need you to come forward. Not up, but forward. So once again, place of relaxation. Push. Good. Good. See how
how he opened up his stride much more willingly that time? Very slight at this point. Like I said, again, today he's kind of pokey because he's asking a lot of questions. He's having to relearn how to use himself, how to figure out his body. That's okay. That's okay if he's a little pokey while figuring that out. We can get more forward later. Good boy. Here, I asked for it again. Very nice, very gentle. Alright, again, I'm going to ask for a little more forward. Shot up, that's okay. I'll just stay with it. There. And once again, I'm going to ask you a little forward. Good. That's fine. That's fine. Good. But I ease up on him right now. You know, I kind of like lay off of him when he relaxes. Now there, you know, I think he might have taken a, you know, he might have been tender or something like that. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Because he kind of like dropped his hip a little bit while he was walking. And that's when his head shot up. For moments like that, I'm not going to pick on him. It's just, you know, number one, not something he can help. Number two, I don't want to create a fight that neither of us win. All right. Forward again. Good. All right, that time, that was what we were looking for. When I asked him on, did you see him stretch down? So it was very, very slight. He might have dropped his pole maybe half an inch, but that was a half an inch more, or maybe more. I don't know. It's hard to tell from right here. But Roxanne says it was probably closer, like 2 or 3 inches. So she's doing this to me. So, you know, but that's good. That's, you know, not only is he just did he not shoot his head up, but he actually dropped it a little bit. Now, you know, this is something, you know, this kind of would bring us into the conversation of, you know, how low do we want the head, and then talking about like long, what we call long and low. And typically, you know, you don't want your horse with their head on the ground just dragging around. You know, in proper long and low, the head drops as a result of them lifting their shoulders, but he's not there yet. He just needs to learn that it's okay to stretch through here. And it may, you know, at this point, it may not be 100% correct, but we're showing him the direction he needs to go in order for us to make it correct later. So we're giving him the tools. So even though he may not be dropping his head exactly from the exact vertebrae that we want him to drop it from, you know, he's kind of getting the message. He's getting which direction he needs to go with it. And then once he figures out the stretching, we can start teaching him how to pick up right here. Good boy. Because you can't get self-carriage and engagement without establishing relaxation first. Good boy. You did it again. What a good boy. Remember, by the girls, they're distracted. This time, he did not try to drag me to the girls. Okay, I lied. He wants Splash. He doesn't want Cheyenne and Bonnie. He wants Splash.
Doesn't everyone?
Everybody wants Splash. All right, so once again, that's fine. I'm going to stay with him. Shoot his head out. He's learning also that he can't take the reins away from me when he does that. All right, one more time. I'm going to ask him. This time I took up a little more of the rein so that he can feel like what it's like to stretch into the rein. Not brace against the rein, but stretch into the rein. Good boy. I'm going to ask him forward. Stop moving.
He always gets 2 or 3 in per session.
Lighten the load, I guess. All right, one more time. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to stay with him. Stay with him. All right. Put his head up that time. That flies. Put his head up again. I'm going to ask him again. Good boy. Good boy. I don't know if it picked it up on camera, but that time he dropped just a little bit. That's fine. That's fine. That's a little bit better than it was before. You know, if you get a big dramatic result in the direction that you were asking for. Sometimes it was a fluke. You need to reward that fluke. You know, he may have done it without realizing it, but you can't necessarily expect them to have that same big reaction that they did before, you know. So even if he still is only giving me like a 1/4 inch down, then I'm still going to reward that. Even though it's not exactly as much as effort as he put in before, it was still a try. And again, this is my first session with this horse, so we've already accomplished quite a bit. Good boy.
He's got a big old belly fly.
Yeah, fly. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's gone.
Gone. All right, so I'm going to push him forward. Push him forward. My hand. Good boy. I don't think it's gone.
No, it came back.
That's fine. I'll let him deal with it. Still there.
It's just buzzing around. He tells you when it's there.
So once again, ask him to open up his stride a little bit. He's kicking out a fly. That's good. Good. Don't pick on them for stuff like that either. You'd swat the fly too if you were in his position. It's not disrespectful for them to deal with environmental factors like that. Fine. Put his head up when I asked him on. He's distracted right now. He wants to have his head up. He's looking at the pitchfork. He's looking at the water. That's okay. I'm going to bend him to the inside, Roxy. Here. Good boy. Good boy. You see how that time when I bent him, he actually kind of gained some. Try the other way. The other way. So we're kind of readdressing a subject we talked about earlier. Good boy. That was much better. You see how he's starting to get, he's not like end result bending. You don't expect him to be. But he's giving a lot more than he was even just at the beginning of the ride, like 30 minutes ago. Good boy. Boy. He's a lot less racy on this side. He's still, he's still harder in the mouth on this side than the other, but he's better than he was. You can't expect to fix these things in one session. Good boy. We're going to ask him to open up his gate a little bit. Yeah, good boy. So even though he may not be going faster, he's swinging through his back a lot more. I know that might be hard to see on camera, but I can definitely feel it. Like, this horse naturally is what we call a leg mover. He moves pretty dramatically in his legs, and he wants to be tight and rigid in his back. So if we can just get him to free up his back a little bit, be more relaxed, and swing a little bit throughout his back, that's good. That's very good. There, he's kind of leaning on me. I'm going to bend him again. Yeah. Good. And so, correct bend will come as a result of me lifting his rib cage and shoulders with my inside leg. Right now, we're kind of having to explain it with the hands, but that's not how it's going to be ridden, up through the end. That's not the end goal, or it shouldn't be. Hands do play a role, but right now we're using them as a tool to explain the direction we want to go in. Once again, I'm going to ask him to kind of stretch forward into that. Good boy. Good boy. Okay, if he does that, I'll just bend him again. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Now let him lean on me. Good boy. tries to toss his head like that, I'll just go right back to bending him. And now I'm going to push him out of it and see what happens. Toss his head back up again, that's okay. I'm going to bend him again. Bend him again. Bend him again. Good boy. Here he's kind of bracing in his jaw area. There. And I'm going to push him forward. Good boy. So then you can kind of start to combine the exercises. So we explained bending, like turning in a circle, and then pushing forward when you're coming straight away. And sometimes, in order to make them, improve the quality, you can combine exercises like that. Like here, if I bend him a little bit to the inside, again, I don't want his nose coming around to touch my foot. Just seeing his eyeball right now is enough for me. If I bend him around, gives me that well, and once he kind of feels like he's on it, then I'll push him forward out of it. And look at that. Once again, I'll bend him, bend him. Remember, like when you're doing this, your leg is not really like, you're not going to kick him around with your leg or anything. He doesn't know what that means at this point. Coming out of the circle bit. Yeah, did you see him drop just a little bit? That was good. So you can combine these exercises. So then, if you have a horse that's really, really stuck with his head held high, and really tense through his back, then that is a good tool to use. Coming like bending, and then straight. There, he shot his head up again, so I'm just going to bend him. I'm not going to take it too personally. Bend him, bend him. And he wanted to shoot up again, so I'm just going to bend him a little more. That's fine. I'm not like asking him to crane his head in. Then we'll ask him to walk out of the circle with purpose. There! There! What a good boy. That's the reaction that I'm looking for. So that right there, I think, was the best one, the best feeling one we've had so far. The best feeling, like stretch out. And kind of drop his head that we've had. So I think that this is probably about all we should do with him today. Again, with other gaits, we're going to have to basically do the same thing with the other gaits. The trot is going to be tricky because that is the gait that he was driven the most in. And so he's going to have a lot more associations with the trot than anything else. But giving him these tools at the walk will very, very, very much help alleviate some of the burden for him and for us in the trot. And he doesn't quite understand whoa yet. He's whoa off the seat. So we're going to have to combine, at this point, since he knows what whoa off the hand means, which, we don't want that. We might have to combine it a little bit. So I'm going to put my seat into him, stop my riding, and then he's still walking. So I'm just gonna have. This is not how we typically want to stop a horse. It's not. We have to make it happen at some point. Good. I'm gonna release him as soon as he gets it to me. So let's do that again because I don't want to end on that. Boy, good boy. So right now I'm exaggerating a lot, but keeping my seat nice and open, going with his motion. And then I'm going to stop my seat, stop my riding. Good. Still not perfect, but that was a lot better, and this is not what we're here for today. So just a little better than it was is where I'm going to end with him. So what a good